For race one of the weekend in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, here we are at the Nuerburgring in the glorious sunshine as the cars make their way round to the grid, ready for this 50-minute race. Regular system, pit stops between 20 and 30 minutes, longer pit stop for the solo drivers down the 2 driver entries and 4 classes. The Pros, the Pro-Ams, the Ams and the Lamborghini Cup entrants all good to go, based on the grid from qualifying that we had earlier on in the day. David Addison trackside, Gemma Scott down on the grid. And as the cars make their way into position, the sun shines down. It's been a very, very nice autumn day here at the Nuerburgring. Not a hint of rain. A bit of cloud has come over in the last few hours, but it's been very un-Nuerburgring-like weather and pretty warm conditions as we get set for race one. It'll be a rolling start, of course. The cars in the 2x2 formation forming up on the grid, with the championship being led in the pro category by Kevin Gilardoni and Leonardo Pulcini from Max Wearing, who gains a co-driver to help him this weekend. And then third, Sebastian Balthazar and Noah Watt, who is not here. And Noah, you might remember, had that nasty accident at the Spa first race. And so Brit Seb Morris takes his place here while Noah recovers. Now let's go down to the grid, because Gemma Scott is down there with some of the drivers.
Max in the ultimate position for the start of this race and battling it out, currently second in the championship, coming into the closing parts of the season.
Yeah, we only have now 2 races to go, 2 racing weekends, so it's 4 races. I am 25 points behind number 1, so it's quite far away. I got an extra driver, Loris Spinelli, right now. He's quite a fast driver. I need a little bit of his help, and I'm driving in my own in this team. So for the first time this year, I can compare my driving style with somebody else's, and we can make the best of it, so I'm really happy with it.
Do you think you can make up those 25 points?
I don't know yet. We have to see what's happening, what's going on. But for now, I don't know.
And the circuit here at Nuerburgring, is it a circuit you enjoy?
I really enjoy this track. It's a really nice track. But next to that, it's my worst track on the calendar. Like last year, I didn't have really good results over here. But for now, like what I told you, we can compare with Loris, so I can make myself better and better, and we're making big steps. So we try whatever we can.
Well, have a fantastic race and a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Max.
Loris Spinelli, who is an established star of Lamborghini Super Trofeo racing over the years, will be the co-driver and is here to help, whereas Glenn Van Berlo and Raul Gutzman continue their partnership. Max Wearing, as you've heard, second in the championship. Glenn Van Berlo starts number 41 from Target Racing. He and Raul Gutzman, the Mexican, are 4th in the title race. Raul Gutzman standing by the side of the car. We might be able to hear from him in a moment, as well as Gemma rounds up the drivers down on the grid. The second row, Milan Tikens and Leonardo Pulcini, the championship leader in the Oregon colours, the multicoloured car from Oregon squad, which has become a familiar sight in one-make saloon car racing, and indeed the European and World Touring Car Championships for a time. We've got 30 cars on the grid. I think I'm right in saying that's the biggest of the season, which is very good indeed to see how the entry has grown again over the course of the season. Let's get back down to the grid. Raul Gutzman, we saw a moment ago by the car. He's now with Gemma.
Raul, we've been saying all year how close everybody is in this championship, and it really is impressive. P4 for you, currently in the standings. Can you fight back from there?
Yeah, you know, it's a super tight championship, extremely competitive. We made a good qualifying, we are P2, so there's every chance, you know, to fight still. We will not give up, and we're hoping for a good race.
What's it like coming into turn 1 here?
It's tight. Obviously, there's only space for 2 cars, but we will see.
Time will tell. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great race.
Thank you.
Raul Gutzman back after his nasty shunt at Spa at the back end of last season. Good that he's been so competitive this year. The other classes headed in Pro-Am, the combination of Karol Bash and Andrei Lewandowski is distorted for the weekend because Karol Bash not here. Eduardo Liverati takes his place, and that car is last on the grid after dramas in qualifying. The AM Championship being led by Claudine Gosselin, and the Lamborghini Cup by Hans Fabry, who's had a very good season actually, his Hans, with 4 race wins. There, Milan Tikens, he will start, and the rest of the grid all taking shape, ready for the countdown to continue, ready to get the formation lap underway. So the drivers then will set off behind the Lamborghini leading car, and to get this first of the 2 races shortly underway. final 2 races coming up at the end of October at Misano. Danny Cruz and his co-driver Dan Pell, potential winners as well, starting on the 3rd row of the grid. Let's get back down to Gemma.
Danny, you may have a sea of Lamborghinis behind you, but you've got a bit of work ahead of you still coming into the first corner here to see what grid position you can make up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been really hard this weekend to get a lap together with all the traffic, but yeah, we're really fast, and also Dan is doing a really good job. So for me, it's just to put the car back into the top 3, and then Dan can finish it off. So yeah, let's hope for the best.
How confident are you of making up those positions?
Well, I know that I'm quicker than some of us in front of us, so yeah, we'll see. You never know how the race goes, but yeah, we need to be aggressive and make up as much positions as possible in the first lap.
Well, we look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Danny Cruz back in the championship to help Dan Pell, and the combination of the pair of Dutch drivers has been a good one because they've taken a race win as well this season. They're number 2, which Seb Morris will drive, the Brit, who's British GT champion. He gets drafted in to partner Sebastian Balthazar while Noah Watt recovers. Noah get well soon. And Seb Morris, we know he's quick, so he is good to go. From Ginetta Juniors through British single-seaters up to GP3, and then sidestep to GT racing. But Seb Morris gets on board. Now, there's another of the stories of the weekend, number 7, which goes to being a single driver. Jonathan Cecotto stands down. Kevin Rossell on his own. Jonathan Cecotto's name still on the side of the car, but the car's going to be a solo entry this weekend now. The GSM Racing Team entry. Kevin Rossell at the wheel. And it's going to be interesting to see how he fares on his own, because Jonathan has been the quicker of the 2, but the results just have not come their way, either penalties or lack of pace or other dramas. But now it is down to Kevin Rossell. There's nowhere to hide, no excuses. He has got to step up to the plate and deliver. Number 99 there, ready for the start, Andrea Kola, in the car that he shares with Dimitri Gvatsava. And Gvatsava does the second stint. Andrea Kola goes first, and of course they switch if it's a double driver entry for the second race of the weekend. Another of the GSM entries there, number 65, which is going to be driven by Nikolai Silvest this weekend, single-seater racer and GT racer, and also Francisco Guerra to drive in that car. Now, Francisco Guerra's name is shown as being the start driver, but it was Nikolai Silvest that drove in the qualifying session for these cars, so I think that might be a transponder gremlin. We'll double-check that. Massimo Siglia starts 27. Further back on the grid as the countdown continues, there is number 9, which is going to be for the opening stint, Miguel Ramos, and then he will hand over to Adrian Amstutz, his co-driver in GT World Challenge Europe. So they've kind of adopted the principle now that while they're here, they might as well get some more laps in. Number 6, Michael Dorbecker will go first. The VS Racing car, driven by Dorbecker for the first stint. Grid now being cleared. 1 minute board displayed, so engines fire up, and in a moment we will be good to go. Eduardo Liberati is going to be a man to watch at the back of the grid. Assuming that car now is healthy, he should charge his way through the field. Eduardo Liberati, very, very quick driver indeed. He's been a class winner in the past in this championship, class champion, so one to watch very definitely. The 15-second board now shown. Get the cars released onto the formation lap. And away now goes the Urus, the leading car, and the green flag shown now as everybody blasts away. So let's have a quick look at the grid then as the cars head into turn 1. It is going to be Loris Spinelli who starts on pole position. And with him at the front of the grid is Glenn Van Berlo, starting in the Target Racing entry. Third on the grid will be Milan Tikens, driving the Bonaldi Motorsport car, and the Oregon entry of Leonardo Pulcini to line up alongside. Field turning its way out of the arena, down now towards turns 4 and 5. And there you see the field pouring through. Quick check on the second row of the grid. Milan Tikens and Leonardo Pulcini, as I mentioned, will line up there side by side. And then the third row, Danny Cruz and Seb Morris will be the start drivers for Bonaldi and Leipert, respectively. Kevin Rossell is a soloist. Andrea Cola will go first alongside. Then Nikolai Silvest should start 65 because he qualified it. Massimo Ciglia to line up alongside ahead of Miguel Ramos and Michael Durbecker. 13th on the grid is going to be Bronek Formanek alongside Fidel Leib in the Leipert car. 15th on the grid, Oscar Lee. And then Han Hoi Lin, who didn't get to start the second race at Spa, is alongside ahead of Donovan Privitello and Raf Mikrut. Then Gerald van der Horst and Gerhard Watzinger, soloists both. 21st on the grid, Claude-Yves Gosselin. Holger Harmsen lines up next to him, another of the solo drivers in the race. 23rd on the grid, Oliver Fryboot, and then Pierre Feligioni will start in the Boots and Gignon car. 25th on the grid, out of the Semoulin family, Francois Semoulin, and Peter Matic will go first for Bonaldi before handing over to Milos Pavlovic. Then newcomer to the series, Gregor Drazel, with Libor Dvoracek alongside him. Hans Fabry and Eduardo Liberati round out the grid. Liberati, of course, the man to watch to help Andrei Lewandowski within the Pro-Am Championship here. Opposition to Lewandowski, who of course now will potentially be a solo champion, with Karel Bash not being able to score the same number of points. That opposition comes from the Bronek Formanek Josef Zaruba car, and they are, of course, much, much further up the grid. So the cars then now making the run up towards the line. They'll get themselves in that 2x2 formation ready for the rolling start. And when they get to the exit of the chicane, we'll be good to go, ready for 50 minutes, the mandatory pit stop window, that brief 10-minute period in the middle of the race. But from the inside of the front row, then you can anticipate Loris Spinelli to try to get away from the opposition, to build that lead, to try and give his co-driver Max Wearing the best chance possible of scoring points, to narrow that margin against the championship leaders, Leonardo Pulcini and Kevin Gilardoni. The field then now gets into formation. The Urus, the pace car, dives into the pit lane. And so now, up towards turn 17, it's down to the front row drivers to control the pace. If the race director, Daniele Gagliardi, is happy, then he will give the indication that the race can get underway. And it's a little bit stop and go. Number 12 in the pit lane there as well, ready to start after a drama. So Pierre Feligioni from the pits. But the field now accelerates to the green flag. We go racing, and a good start made by Spinelli then. He will lead on the run down towards the first corner, but it's very, very crowded in the middle, despite the Nürburgring being a big wide circuit. Spinelli leads the way then. Second is Glenn Van Berlo, and side by side for third, as up the inside line dives Milan Tikens to the outside line, though there goes Leonardo Pulcini. The rest scrabble their way through turn 1. But amazingly enough, despite a variety of lines, no contact. So the field now blasts on up towards turn 3 for the first time. 33, Danny Cruz on the inside, forcing the issue to go forward then. Goes ahead of Pulcini. So Leonardo Pulcini, who is normally one of the faster and more forceful drivers, losing rather than gaining ground right now as the cars turn their way through turn 5. Plunge downhill here. Running on board briefly with Sam Morris there. He's got work to do, but also having to remind himself what a Lamborghini Super Trofeo mount is all about. He's raced them from memory Silverstone, going back a few years, but on board now. This is Sam Morris for the Leipert team, down towards turn 8, and then the long climb up the other side. So the field pouring downhill. A big, big gravel trap awaits anybody that gets it hopelessly wrong on exit. But look at the way that Loris Spinelli is charging clear of everybody else. It's going to be a good battle on for second, but he's away and gone already here. So So through they turn, and there, Loris Spinelli, race leader, somewhat dominant. That car, by the way, we saw in the pit lane, Pierre Feligioni's car, is still there. So it has yet to get going, which means they're in danger of losing a lap and therefore potentially being out of contention for a class win as the field accelerates up towards the end of the lap. And clearly it is a problem, because there it sits side by side further back there as Danny Cruz just hangs onto his place and others battle in midfield, so up towards the chicane then, and then the end of the opening lap. Battles rage up and down the field. But Loris Spinelli is about the loneliest man in the place, because he leads comfortably at the end of lap number 1. Through in second place, Glenn Van Berlo. In third, Milan Tikens goes through. Little traffic cone has been brought into the middle of the chicane. These cars using the harder, slower version, the tighter version of the chicane. And down towards turn 1, a big dive by Pulcini up the inside, clatters his way up the inside of Danny Cruz, and that just leaves the door wide open then for Seb Morris to pick up 2 places. Good opportunistic move that by the British driver. Seb Morris goes by, and it was really Danny Cruz that was the big loser out of all of that. 1 up and 2 down. Pulcini stays where he is, and he's about to lose out again. Cruz up the inside line. He tried that on the earlier lap, and he gets his position back. Good move by him. What's going on for Pulcini? He just does not seem to have the pace right now to be able to go after those around him. He's losing touch, losing ground here. So plunging downhill once more. Replay of that move then. So it was a late decision by Pulcini to commit to it. He saw the gap on the inside, brake very, very late. There was nowhere Cruz could go except wider in avoidance, and Seb Morris here sees the road open up ahead of him. He turns in, and suddenly, wow, look at all that real estate. 2 places gained. Thank you very much. So Seb Morris up into 4th. He, of course, trying to help for points Sebastian Balthazar, who runs 3rd now in the championship. So the race leaders plunge downhill once again. We're on lap number 2. And it's Spinelli still clear. Van Berlo in 2nd place. The margin at the end of the first lap was 2.1 seconds. It was a massive advantage. And as the cars come through then now, it is Spinelli, Van Berlo, Tikens, Morris, then Cruz, Pulcini, Rossell. Confirmation that Nicolai Silvestre does indeed drive number 65, not what we were being shown on the grid. And the field accelerates then up through the exit of turn 17. Over the timing line now. Spinelli it is that leads the way. Van Berlo's 2nd. That margin was 2 seconds. It's now 3.2. Barring a safety car, Loris Spinelli is going to end his stint with an absolutely monster advantage. Milan Tikens here, keeping for the moment... Sorry, this is Seb Morris, I should say, for the moment, keeping Danny Cruz at bay, and he's bringing with him Leonardo Pulcini. So Morris having to go defensive. There is Danny Cruz with a bit of damage on the side of the car, a legacy of the previous lap and its dramas, and then Pulcini. I don't know if it's part of Pulcini's car, actually, part of the splitter that might be underneath, but that's not looking good. Something dragging on the ground and flapping like that might end up attracting the attention of the race officials. If the scrutineers want that in because they think it's dangerous, then that's going to go really badly against Cruz and Dampel. There it is. You can see whatever trim it is flapping around. It might part company on its own. It may not. The 65 Nicolai Silvestre here drops downhill, chasing after the sister car of Kevin Rossell. It's parted company now, whatever it was, flies off the side of Danny Cruz's car. So that's what he needed. So it's no longer an issue. Down through turn 8. Spinelli still well clear in the lead, doing absolute best sector by sector. So the cars turn through. And there, number 11 is Leonardo Pulcini, but mysteriously that car just not looking as quick here as it has at earlier rounds of the championship. Loris Spinelli, though, is on an absolute mission. He's already got the fastest lap of the race. He's 3.2 seconds to the good. There, going through now, is Nicolai Silvestre. Over the timing line now goes Loris Spinelli. 3.2 seconds last time was the margin. It's almost half the pit straight, isn't it? 4.5 seconds now is the gap that he has in hand over Van Berlo, and there is Tikens with this queue of cars behind him, including then Morris a little bit further back with Cruz, Pulcini, Rossell. Then the whole queue starts to form. Andrea Kohler through, second in Pro-Am at the moment. Kohler ended up in the Armco, the wall at Spa, so bouncing back and looking for points in class here. Him and Dimitri Kvasova, the two drivers of that car. Pierre Felegioni, by the way, I fear he's not going to get into the race. He's still in the pit lane. That rather does look as though it's game over for him. So downhill they turn, and Spinelli it is, 4.5 seconds to the good right now. There going through is 65. That's Nikolai Silvestre, new to the championship, chasing after Kevin Rossell, his teammate. And of course, Kevin Rossell is a soloist, and they're looking a little bit further back. Massimo Siglia in another of the Oregon entries as the field accelerates through here. 39. Han Hoi Lin, he was another one in strife at Spa, didn't get to take part in the second race. He's about to lose a place, possibly to Liberati. Eduardo Liberati had a look at the inside. Downhill they come, and there number 16, Eduardo Liberati, continues to push. So how far up the order has he got from the very back of the grid? Whoops, more drama at the chicane, and who does that take out? 51 by the look of it. Oscar Lee delayed in all of that, so Oscar Lee losing a couple of places. Liberati was 17th, and he's now 16th at the very worst. Up through the chicane, out of turn 17, over the line. Leader has 5 seconds in hand. How did Oscar Lee find himself off the racetrack? He got harpooned, that's how. Who was that doing the harpooning? Number 10. So Fidel Leib it was that came up the inside, and although Oscar Lee tried to give him racing room, that was a bold dive by Fidel Leib, and contact made, and Oscar Lee, who shares with Dan Wells, the very rapid, underrated British driver in this, he's the one that loses out. So they're going through is number 11, Leonardo Pulcini. Mysterious lack of pace in this race relative to what we see normally. Seb Morris, in the meantime, doing a good job. Parachuted in, limited testing, and gets on with the job in hand here. Presses on down the hill. So Laurie Spinelli leads Glenn Van Berlo. We're on lap 5 and 10 more minutes before the pit window opens. As there through goes number 9, Miguel Ramos, the very, very experienced Portuguese racer. This is his view as he makes the climb up the hill now. It's barely a season he's missed in the last couple of decades, most with great success, whether it's been in GTs or touring cars and for Target Racing. Miguel Ramos turns for the AM Cup, left and right, sharing with Adrian Amstutz, who came out of this championship. They raced together in World Challenge Europe, and it's good to have them back together in this. So whether or not we can ever tempt Miguel's GT team of Barwell to come into this championship remains to be seen, but it'll be a good fit for Mark Lemmer's squad. Over the line has just gone the race leader, Loris Spinelli, giving you an idea of where cars are around the racetrack right now. Glenn Van Berlo in second place is 5.7 seconds back as Ramos presses on down to turn 17. Now, further down the order, we've had a change. Leonardo Pulcini's up to 5th, ahead of Danny Cruz. There they are, side by side into turn 1. Pulcini gets his place back, but Cruz tries to get the switch back, but that's going to put him on the outside line here for turn 2. He needs another undercut, really, for turn 3. Tries it. No, can't really tighten the line enough. Ease off the lock a little bit, then turn left again. Pulcini hangs on to position now. So there, number 33, Danny Cruz, plunges down the hill. So he's lost that spot back to Pulcini, but the race-leading trio are 5.5 seconds clear of their 4th, Seb Morris. So what's going to happen in the second stint will be interesting, because in a number of cases you've got the slower driver in, or they're not quite so quick. In other cases you've got the faster, so there could be a real shuffle of order. Danny Cruz for Bonaldi came back into the championship mid-season and came back with success because he took a win in the first race at Spa with Dampel. Over the curve they turn. And right now, Leonardo Puccini keeps Danny Cruz at bay, but even though he's gained that place by having to go defensive, so he's not really being able to pull away. That contact we had a little while ago between Oscar Lee and Fidel Leib is under investigation, so Leib might be considered being a bit overly aggressive out of all of that. We shall see as the leaders then accelerate with 38 minutes of 50 on the clock down towards the end now of lap number 6, and indeed into the race very late indeed has now gone Pierre Feligioni. There's another one actually that hasn't got into the race at all, I noticed, Claude-Yves Gosselin. Now that's rather significant as well because he leads the AM Championship, so Gosselin missing. Race leaders go by. Spinelli lead now by 6.4 seconds. Back on board with Ramos, who comes over the line, leading the AM Cup, 13th overall. Hard on the brakes, down through turn 1, through that right, now swoop left. Spinelli's fastest lap, a 1:59.440, and it was a 58.5 in qualifying. Different type of setup perhaps, but even so, Spinelli has been the master of the day so far. Ramos' next target, Massimo Siglia, just up the road. Siglia for the Oregon team as the leaders plunge downhill 6 minutes and a bit before the pit window opens. So some of the teams will be thinking about bringing the cars in early, getting the driver swap done. Eduardo Liberati still presses on for the VS Racing team up from the back of the grid. He's now 14th, and in fact Ramos, no, 13th. He's got past Ramos, has he not? So Liberati picks his way through, makes the next run up onto the tail of Massimo Siglia. But Eduardo Liberati, who is very much the pro in the Pro-Am car, carving his way through the field. Up towards the Schumacher S, through the left, through the right. But there's the race leader, Loris Spinelli, just ticking off the laps. Fidel Leib, number 10, 5-second penalty to be added to the race time for that contact earlier on. So Fidel Leib picks up a penalty. That's Spinelli, the leader for the Dutch Johan Kraan Motorsports team, new into the championship this year. Started with a win when Max Weering was driving on his own at Monza. Drama's late race for a number of cars, but I think it was largely tyre related, but he came through to win. Good start to the season for both team and driver, as you see Andrea Kohler there. He's the leading Pro-Am right now for Target Racing. Kohler runs 9th. Makes that run down towards turn 3. Nicolai Silvestre just up the road ahead of him. Out of turn 4 now. Speed building once again as they accelerate towards turn 5. Then the road starts, you can see, to tilt down the hill. And 5 minutes we are away now from the pit window. Now Spinelli, given his pace, I would anticipate will stay out for as long as possible. There's no reason for him to come in any sooner than is absolutely necessary. Car number 8 is Donovan Privitello. That's the leading car within the Lamborghini Cup, the father and son, Donovan and Luciano Privitello, run by the Rexel FFF Racing team, the same squad FFF Racing team that had so much success with Lamborghinis in global GT racing back in 2019. Of course, is still a mainstay of GT World Challenge Europe now. There is Privitello, and he accelerates now down the hill once again. The pit stops, what else are we likely to see? Liberati's up to 13th. That car still charging, and Liberati, I think, will gain more ground before he pits because others will feed out of the way, plus he'll stay out longer. and he's also got good pace, so that's another one to watch, and that brings Lewandowski into a really good position for a class win into the second stint, despite starting at the back. Now they're going down towards turn 1. The car being overtaken is that of Pietro Legioni, and that means that Morris and Pulcini, 4th and 5th, put a lap on him, but Daniel Cruz just slightly delayed there, having to wriggle away past now around the outside. So right now, there you can see the hard charging Seb Morris. Been a good return to the championship this for him, as they're going through his 33. That is the car in the hands of Danny Cruz, still trying to make ground. Number 65 also hustling on, Nikolai Silvestre, but he's now got Andrea Cola right there behind him. Cola looking quicker and quicker and quicker here, so this is the 8th place overall. Now Cola does not need to go past because he's already leading his class quite happily. He's only going to put himself in jeopardy, but that racing driver's instinct, he wants another place. So with 32 minutes on the clock, Andrea Cola now comes up towards the Ravenol and Bilstein curves. Actually dropped back a couple of lengths there from Silvestre, but he was giving him a very, very hard time indeed. At the end of the next lap, the pit window will be open. Going to be the next target for everybody. Is there Andrea Cola fizzes his way up now towards the chicane, and as he does so, has again got to try and make up a couple of lengths. The move for turn 1 needs to start here, get a good exit, avoid the cone in the road, and then chip away through turn 17 so you can try and get some sort of a toe and make that dive up the inside under braking down at the first corner. Seb Morris goes through 4th, Pulcini 5th, Danny Cruz in 6th place as they go by. They brake and they turn through the right-hander now. They're going by is Eduardo Liberati. So Liberati currently runs 12, making further progress. And getting onto the back of Formanek, who puts a lap there on Pierre Feligioni. Massimo Siglia there, number 27, with Miguel Ramos behind him. Ramos still leading the AMs from Han Huy Lin, and then Raf Michruts, 3rd in the class. This is the view on board with the Portuguese driver, getting his mileage in here this weekend, that's for sure. And actually now he's making a move, isn't he, because Massimo Siglia, just up the road ahead, comes under attack. Turn left, turn right, look to drop down the hill. There's nowhere for Ramos to go, so he has to kind of go wide there so as to avoid any contact. And now the blast down the hill. Ramos racing Lamborghinis, of course, in World Challenge Europe, but with a lot less aero in these cars than the GT3 specs. So you'll find a totally different feel to the race car here. Comes out of turn 8, gets back onto the power, now makes that run up the hill. So as the leaders turn their way up to the end of lap number 10, Ramos there still runs 14th, having fallen back behind the charging Liberati, but he's still in his battle with Massimo Siglia there in the Origin car, looking at the green back of it. It's got the yellow and pink other sections to the livery design. The pit window is now open, as you see on the graphic, so who is going to be the first one to bail, we'll find out. If it's a quick driver, they'll stay out. If it's the slower of the two, they'll be in early. A drama there, 2 cars off, one rejoining, one facing the wrong way. I have a feeling the one that's stranded might be Holger Harmsen's car. Number 90, let's have a look. It is Holger Harmsen facing the wrong way. He will get going. There was another one involved in that, as we'd seen it recover. Pulcini puts a move on Seb Morris and goes through. And Nikolai Silvestre is the first one into the pit lane, number 65. So Silvestre comes in. Right, Pulcini has got past Morris, who's going to go defensive now, because right there behind him, look, Danny Cruz trying to find a way through. Down they come around turn 3, and Cruz lines that one up beautifully, stood his ground on the outside, through he goes. So Seb Morris loses 2 places. This could mean it's coming towards the end of his stint. The team might say, right, okay, let's get you in, put Balthazar in the car now. 2 places lost. Also in has come Michael Durbecker, Bronek Formanek, Massimo Siglia is in, Oscar Lee is in. So Dan Wells being given full track time in that car, which will be well worth watching, number 51. Durbecker giving way in number 6 also to Mattia Michelotto. And the race leader is on lap number 11, and the race leader is the leader by 8.7 seconds as Loris Spinelli continues here to make life look pretty easy. This is Seb Morris's view as he accelerates up from the Schumacher S. Makes the climb now up towards the Bilstein and the Ravenel curves. Go left, and then go right, and then accelerate down the hill. So more for the pit lane, including Gerard van der Horst at front of the queue. The green car in the background, Peter Matic, to give way. Also about to leave there, Nicolas Silvestre, who's now morphed into Francisco Guerra. And as the race leader, Loris Spinelli, continues to hold sway, working his way now up through the traffic. Up front, the battle between Spinelli and Van Berlo, 8.7 seconds now. Tegan still runs third, Pulcini fourth. Seb Morris is in, there he is, so having lost a bit of ground, he has headed into the pit lane. Sebastian Balthazar takes over, but Seb Morris returning to Lamborghini Super Trofeo, not doing a bad job there, keeping the car in the mix in that first stint, losing out just at the end. Possibly, as I said, that's why that's been brought into the pit lane to do the driver change when they elected to do it. So the Lippert team, an experienced squad in Lamborghini terms, getting set to wave that car back out again. Seb Morris leans in, helps Sebastian Balthazar get belted in. And door closes, Seb walks away. So that now means that Danny Cruz runs 5th, and there a lap down in 51 is Dan Wells taking over from Oscar Lee, but of course that car had lost a bit of ground early on, plus the pit stop, so it falls a lap down. There is Sebastian Balthazar away. The main aim for this car is now to try and get ahead of Wearing and or the Pulcini Gilardoni entry before the end of the race and take points away from either. Well, it's going to be a big ask to get ahead of Max Wearing's car, with Loris Spinelli so far ahead of the opposition just now. Others cycling through their pit stops, as you see. Right, Spinelli about to do another lap. There's no need yet for him to come in. That to the eye looks like Kevin Rossell, one of the solo drivers, dives into the pit lane. It is number 7, the GSM car. That's out of 6th place. Kevin Rossell down the pit road now. So Rossell comes in, and he falls down the order accordingly. That's going to give Liberati 7th place now after his efforts, and another one being given a penalty is car number 8, according to the timing screen. Now that is the Privitellios, so we haven't seen them involved in an incident. They may well have been, but the number 8 Privitellio car, 17th in the order, also given a 5-second penalty. And all of this happening before the pit stop, so it's not for pit infringements, it's for incidents out on track. The window remains open as there going through is the race leader. Now he's found himself caught up in the traffic, hasn't he? Because that's behind Francisco Guerra, Italian GT racer, and Francisco Guerra going at his own pace. It's up to the race leader now to try and find a way by, but Loris Spinelli on this lap might just lose a little bit of time. Through he goes, so 61 moves through. Remember, the GSM car in the background we've already seen make its pit stop, so that's why he's coming across yet more back markers, Loris Spinelli. But as far as number 65, Francisco Guerra, is concerned, he is on his first flying lap of his stint. So Loris Spinelli losing a little bit of time and stays out for another lap. The margin over Glenn Van Berlo still a big one, 9 seconds last time. It can be expected to be yet further at the end of this lap as they come by. And oddly, even though he's a pretty experienced driver, Francisco Guerra seeming to struggle for pace, actually. We've normally seen him in Ferraris rather than Lamborghinis, I'll grant you, but that car not really picking up its skirts as it comes over the line, and he's about to lose track position in the background as the leader dives into turn 1 here. So through goes Spinelli, makes the climb now around the arena, and there number 65 with a hard-charging Mattia Michelotto behind him. This is for position, and the margin between them when they started this lap was only a fifth of a second, so Francisco Guerra is under real attack now. The Vincenzo Sospiri team car of Mattia Michelotto right there behind and pulls to the inside line now. They should get the job done. In fact, coming down towards turn 5, Michelotto lines it up, but no, couldn't quite commit to the inside line on the straight. So Guerra just having enough straight line speed to get to the apex of the corner first. He hangs on to position as they fall down the hill again here. There's still got quite a few to make their pit stops, probably only really a lap in which to do it. So it's going to be a bit more frantic at the end of this next lap with more coming into the pit lane. There's the Crivitello car with its 5-second penalty now, and number 2 is under investigation for its pit stop time. So the Balthazar Morris Lippert car is being looked at for possibly being too short on the pit stop. It's got to be about 90 seconds line to line, and that car was 1:27. Oh dear. I feel another penalty heading that way. So it's partly down to the team to control the stationary element, which is 60 and 63 seconds, depending on whether you are a 2 or 1 driver entry. But there's also that drive time to get you from line to line that's got to be policed properly as well. So they need to work out when to release the car so it's not under on the pit stop. Spinelli for the pits then to give way now to Max Weering, his co-driver. Perfect stint that by Loris Spinelli, did everything absolutely right from pole position, built up a gap. And now all he has to do really is hope that there's no safety car and that Weering can hang on to the advantage. Gets to the pit lane speed limit line, slows the car right down. The Johan Kran team are at pit in, so there's not much driving that he needs to do now. And Spinelli quickly out of the car, gives way to Weering. The team needs to make sure that it's got the pit stop timings absolutely nailed. Down the pit lane from second place comes Glenn Van Berlo to morph into Raoul Gutschmann, and we should also have Leonardo Pulcini coming in. We do indeed. Some Pulcini pits. Milan Tikens gave way a lap ago from third to Maxime Ouston, so that car trying to play catch-up now as all these last pit stops cycle through. Down the pit road also there, Edoardo Liberati to give way to Andrei Lewandowski. Drivers now, having done their stint, sprint across the pit lane to go and have a look at the data on the pit wall. So we'll see not who is in the lead, but by what margin at the end of the pit stops. 54 then, Maxime Ouston, the best of those that have stopped, staying out on track then for this second stint, and the pit window is due to close in about half a minute's time as the last few cars come down the pit lane. Now there, 54, Maxime Ouston presses on up towards the chicane. More stops about to be completed. And there, as the last few accelerate down the pit road, the pit window is about to close because we hit 0 now, and so the pit window does indeed shut. And there, down the pit straight goes 54. So Maxime Ouston maintains track position, certainly ahead of number 11, which goes to Kevin Gilardoni, and 33 there, which goes to Dan Pell. Down through turn 1 goes 33. So there's an investigation over Sebastian Balthazar's pit stop time, and there is his car. So it is at the end of the previous lap 8th, and there's another one under investigation as well for the pit stop time, and it's number 22, which is Libor Dvoracek. He, in fairness, is a long way back in 26, but it could affect what goes on for the class positions if he has a penalty looming. There, 66 round the outside. That is the Czech driver, Josef Zaruba, puts a move on the GSM entry. So Francisco Guerra drops another place out of all of that. Replay here of a move being pulled on the inside. Was that Michelotto diving through? It was Mattia Michelotto, who'd been building up to that, finally commits, but that in turn forced Guerra off the road, and Josef Zaruba able to pick his way through as well. there, down through turn 8, goes this battle between Mattia Michelotto and behind him, Josef Zaruba. But those two ought to be able to get away now on pace, I would have thought, from Francesco Guerra. So Max Wearing, race leader, trying to preserve for 18 more minutes the advantage that's been given to him by Loris Spinelli. He comes now out of turn 17 up towards the timing line once more. Through he turns, and the gap we'll see over Raul Gutzmann, and then start to look at lap times as well. It is 8.6 seconds, so Max Wearing doing a good outlap there. Now we'll start to see in the sectors whether he's able to pull away from Gutzmann or whether that gap's liable to come down. So Gutzmann through the arena. Maxime Ouston is third. Kevin Gelardoni runs fourth ahead of Dan Pell. Sebastian Balthazar sixth, but being investigated for the pit stop. Dimitri Gvatsova is seventh. Kevin Rossell is eighth. Eduardo Liberati ninth. That should now be Andrei Lewandowski. And Mattia Michelotto we'd seen gaining ground anyway, so he's up into the top 10. But Wearing to Gutzmann, 8.6 seconds. Now we'll start to see what's going on in terms of sectors, as there, third, Maxime Ouston hustles on. He's got 7.7, nearly 8 seconds to make up relative to the car ahead of him. So the leaders plunge downhill once more. Now for the championship, if you take Pro for the moment, Pulcini and Gilardoni's car is behind that of Wearing, and it is ahead of Balthazar. So the plan of bringing Loris Spinelli into the mix is working absolutely right for Max Wearing, because he's got the car in the lead, but also Kevin Gilardoni is down in fourth. Could he be caught here by Dan Pell? Gilardoni, on evidence really of the year, has not normally been as quick as Pulcini, and Pulcini struggled to make it up through the traffic early on. So there, Dan Pell, I reckon, might be able to get another place out of this and take points away from the championship leaders. We'll see in the remaining 16 minutes, but he's got the pace seemingly at the moment. Once more downhill they plunge, and for Sebastian Balthazar, there he is, another of the Leipzig drivers, sixth on the road at the moment, but with this penalty hanging over, and it's also now added to the list number 12, Pierre Feligioni and Daniel Waszyński's car. It's Daniel Waszyński at the wheel, but having started late from the pit lane, that car is something like 6 laps down. There's another investigation about pit stop times under the mandatory pit stop. There for Pro-Am, Dimitri Gvatsova, having taken over from Andrea Kola, leading the class, comes out of turn 17 and up over the timing line now. So there, Gvatsova into turn 1, into turn 17 comes Miguel Ramos. Now it's still being shown as Ramos, but that should be Adrian Amstutz now, should it not? So is that a timing glitch, or has he decided to go solo? Discuss, trying to peer inside the car, but it may be that the timing system is not updated. It might be that Adrian Amstutz has decided not to race after all, but certainly it was entered as a double driver car, and all the information for the grid showed it as a 2-driver entry as well. But Miguel Ramos, it's kind of going at a Ramos pace, isn't it, even though Amstutz is not slow. But anyway, it's still being shown as Ramos at the wheel of that car, so let's go with it for the moment. And he still leads the Pro-Am class, the Lamborghini Cup being led by Gerard van der Horst. That is van der Horst, who comes up towards the line, back in the championship, having had a season or so away. But Gerard van der Horst doesn't just race them, he also prepares them, and does a very, very good job. He's been a multiple Lamborghini Cup champion over the seasons, comes out of turn 1, and opposition to him in class is from now Benoit Semoulin and then Libor Dvoracek. Now, there are penalties being applied. It's about half a second for Balthazar and half a second for Dvoracek, and 0.3 of a second to number 15, which is being given a penalty as well. you do not have a 15, but that's shown as being given a penalty, so I think that is a glitch as well. But there are penalties being applied for being under on the pit stops. Van der Horst, in the meantime, presses on. "13 more minutes on the clock, and Max Wearing's gap in the race lead is coming down a little. We had it at 8 seconds, it's now 7. And Mattia Michelotto is being investigated also for cutting the chicane at the end of the lap. So the car that's running in 10th place being looked at. So there, number 24 is Oliver Fryboot. He, having had a class win this year, is currently 21st overall, but 4th now in Pro-Am. Oliver Fryboot, whose racing career features largely Renault one-mate championships up until a few seasons ago, but an experienced driver is Fryboot. Max Wearing still in charge up front and just being caught a little. So not by masses, just a tenth or so per sector. But is that going to give Gutzmann a chance of getting near enough in 12 more minutes to have a go? 7 seconds the margin at the start of this lap. Up to turn 17 now comes the leader. Swings through that right-hander, now blasts over the timing line once again. So Max Wearing goes through. There in the background is Gutzmann. The fact that he can see his rival will spur him on a little bit. And the margin was 7 seconds. It's down to 6.2. It's not a bad gain, actually, this now. So Gutzmann has a chance, and he'll be being urged on by the team, and that's going to possibly give him yet more impetus to catch the race leader. The fact that everyone thinks it's a realistic bid now with 11.5 minutes just over, still to go. So there, Raul Gutzmann, the Mexican driver, accelerates out of the arena down towards turn 5 now. He's done, even though of Mexican origin, most of his racing in Europe in Italian Formula 4 and Formula Renault and the Euro Formula 3 series before coming into the Super Trofeo last year with Target. And it's good to have him back racing so well after the accident he had at Spa, where he was quite bruised and battered by the end of it. The final support race of the 24 hours. Out of turn 8 he goes then, up the hill once more, climbs the curb. So Max Wearing to Raul Gutzmann, 6.2 seconds. Gutzmann to this car of Maxime Ouston, that is 11 seconds. But behind, look, Kevin Gilardoni is closing on Ouston. So that margin between the pair, 1.8 seconds, and reduced a fraction within the first sector of this lap. 10 more minutes to go as a sideways Ouston gets the power down there, but the back almost breaks away from him as the cars accelerate down the hill once again now. Out of the chicane comes the third, fourth battle then, and it's almost there, isn't it now? Gilardoni very, very close indeed to the back of Maxime Ouston as they come through the right out of turn 17 up towards the timing line once more. So as the leaders go through, in the background, Dan Pell, who's actually fallen away from Gilardoni, trying to work his way through the traffic. He's got Sebastian Balthazar tucked up behind him. So the green car is Balthazar, the red one is that of Dan Pell. They put a lap on Luciano Privitello down towards turn 1 and into the right-hander. There's no chance there for Sebastian Balthazar to be able to find a way through. So that, for the moment, means that he is still stuck behind. So the race leaders then on lap 20, and Max Wearing 5.8 seconds clear last time. The gap is definitely dropping, but he's going to have just enough in hand potentially to see him safely through to the flag. Down through turn 8 there. Maxime Ouston, Kevin Gilardoni inching up onto the back of him. He's just taken another 0.4 of a second out of him, and 15 seconds are going to be added to the race time of number 6, Mattia Michelotto, for skipping the chicane. So the stewards have looked at it, we've not seen it, but they think he's gained an advantage, and so a penalty goes that will drop Michelotto down the order. In Pro-Am, it is Gvatsova from Lewandowski. The margin between them is something like the best part of 7 seconds, but even so, from the last rank on the grid, Edoardo Liberati has done a good job for Lewandowski to help him in the championship. Through there goes Maxime Houston. There the field now turns out of turn 17, back onto the power, and the run up over the line. So the leaders go by, and Pulcini's car, Gilardoni at the wheel, is now near enough to have a go. Absolutely. So on this lap, you can see both of the cars looking all nervous as the drivers try and get the power down just before the grip is there. And out of the corner, turn 3, Gilardoni loses a length, but he closes it right back up under braking onto the back of Houston now. So for the last place on the overall podium they come, nose to tail. 7 minutes on the clock. Lead gap last time 5.4 seconds. But for third place, game on. Gilardoni on the back of Houston as they turn left, drop downhill now. So these two hard at work. Maxime Houston trying to hang on to a podium, and Kevin Gilardoni needs every place for every point for the championship. One more race tomorrow, and then the last 2 will be at Misano as part of the World Finals weekend, which is back on the calendar this year. Even though there's no Middle East nor Asian Championship, the Europeans and the Americans will still get together and fight it out for the last rounds of their championship, but also, of course, for the World Final itself over that weekend. So there's qualifying Thursday, you race Friday for your regions, the last 2 races, and then there's a race Saturday and Sunday for the World Final itself. So there, downhill they turn. Big rattle over the curbs there. Kevin Gilardoni. Does he get away with it? He does. He's got the momentum. Comes up to challenge as they get to turn 17. The lead gap is down to 4.4 seconds, and this is about to change as well. Won't happen on the straight necessarily, but it might do under braking for turn 1. Gilardoni could not be closer as they go across the line. Cigarette paper width between them. Gilardoni lines up for the inside. There has a look to the outside, trying to unsettle the Dutch driver, but this is his best chance yet. He can't afford to squander it, but there's no real opportunity to get through there. So Maxime Houston just sat in the middle of the road and defended nicely, so Kevin Gilardoni can't yet find a way by. They're still nose to tail. The Oregon team will be urging Gilardoni on here to say, come on, make the move. He's trying to force a little error out of Maxime Houston, then he'll be able to pounce. Through they turn, down towards the left-hander of turn 5 now, and as the leaders come through, we have another car under investigation for a pit stop infringement, and all of a sudden in the pit lane there has been activity around one of the safety cars. So is there an incident out on track that's about to be attended to? We've got boards being prepared by marshals. We've got 4 3/4 minutes on the clock. But for third place here, Houston and Gilardoni still battle. So out of the Schumacher S they turn. And so now up towards the Ravenel and Bilstein curves. Lap 22, 4.4 seconds between the leaders, and Gilardoni, after all the hard work of a lap ago, has fallen back a little bit now. So the race leader, Max Weering, comes towards the end of lap 22. There's a drive-through penalty now being given to number 90, which is Holger Harmsen. The race leader is 3.9 seconds to the good. I think he's going to be able to hang on with 3 3/4 minutes to go, but no question about it, that margin is coming down all the time. Ooston and Gilardoni still run third and fourth. Dan Pell is fifth. There's the battle for third place. Sixth behind them all is Sebastian Balthazar. Break now for turn 1. Turn through the corner. At number 11, Kevin Gilardoni hustles on, trying to get that error out of Ooston. But again, though he's very, very good on the brakes heading into turn 3, there's nowhere to go because already in the way is Maxime Ooston's car. So Ooston defending nicely, hangs on to position. The field once more down towards turn 4. Other battles that have been going on. This in replay is coming up towards turn 17, and that is Josef Zaruba diving through on the inside of Mattia Michelotto, who then got it all wrong and clattered the barrier, just about survived that, but losing a place. He tried to dive back through on the inside line. So the race leader, 3.9 seconds clear. Margin is coming down, no question about it. Raoul Gutschmann in second place hustles on, but he's also got to clear traffic, hence the flash of the headlights there to say, be aware, I'm catching, I'm closing, let me by. And with a lap time being 2 minutes 3, it is going to be one more lap to go at the end of this, isn't it? So Max Weering does have enough in hand. Might be only just, but he does have enough in hand. Leaders through. Now what's going on lower down the order, where we've had the battle between Ooston and Gilardoni. They're about to start the last lap, so now Gilardoni very definitely is running out of options, running out of time. Can't afford to waste another opportunity, so over the line they go as one, down towards the arena. And is this Gilardoni's chance, his last chance to dive up the inside? Not really close enough, so he couldn't make that move work there. They brake, they turn in, still tied together. The leading gap 2.5 seconds, so it's been a good charge by Gutschmann. He's going to run out of time. If they were 60-minute races, he might be on, but for third place, it is definitely on still, as Ooston and Gilardoni come through together, but Kevin Gilardoni running out of options, running out of time. Dan Pell is behind them. He actually has fallen away, so rather than catch, he has been caught by Sebastian Balthazar as the leaders here accelerate once more through the approach to turn 5 now. Drop downhill. Drama there, Luciano Privitello is off the road. So that car is in strife. Max Weering accelerates his way up towards the end of the lap. And this time it's going to be a checkered flag for him and a win. There, number 61 up towards the end of the lap. So Max Weering is about to become, for the second time this year, a race winner, this time with a bit of help from his friend Loris Spinelli, but even so, it's a win and good points in the championship for Max Weering, who comes across the line then to score race honours in race 1. Second will go the way of Raoul Gutschmann and Glenn Van Berlo, but third up towards the line, Maxime Ooston defending for all he's worth. Kevin Gilardoni is right there behind him. Flag at the ready. It's going to be a drag race to the line, but it is going to be third place for Maxime Ooston and Milan Tikens. Fourth goes the way of Kevin Gilardoni and Leonardo Pulcini, and then for fifth place, Dan Pell and Danny Cruz. Sixth on the road, Sebastian Balthazar and Seb Morris, but of course that is the car with the penalty to be applied. So a good drive by Weering, and actually in the end the margin increased up to 5.4 seconds over the opposition. So Max Weering the winner. Now there, number 9, still shown as Miguel Ramos as a solo effort, comes up towards the line, so we'll go with that. Miguel Ramos then comes through. Adrian Amstutz possibly electing to focus after all on World Challenge Europe. So Miguel Ramos wins the AM class, ahead of Han Hoi Lin, and then Gregor Machulski and Raf Mikrut for third. So, as ever, an intriguing race, some good battles. And in the pro category then, the top 3 overall, Max Weering and Loris Spinelli, the winners from Raoul Gutzman and Glenn van Berlo, and Maxime Oostin and Milan Tikens taking third. In Pro-Am, a win there for Dimitri Vatseva and Andrea Kola. Second in class were Andrei Lewandowski and Eduardo Liberati from the back of the grid, and third in the category Yusuf Zaruba and Bronek Formanek. Of the AMs, it was Miguel Ramos from Han Hoi Lin, getting a replay on the last lap here of more dramas coming out of the chicane. And that is what happened to Privitello. Oh, it cannons into the side, totally out of control of Dan Wells. Nothing Dan could do about that. He actually got away lightly without flinching, I think, but Luciano Privitello making a real mess of the approach to turn 1. That's why he was off the road down there. Third in the AMs, just to finish that point, was Greg Machulski and Raf Mikrut. And the Lamborghini Cup, Gerard van der Horst, the winner from Benoit et Francois Semoulin, and then Libor Dvoracek taking third in class. But Max Weering it is that scores honours. And a good drive by Loris Spinelli. I'm not taking anything away from Max Weering in saying this, but certainly Loris Spinelli's early pace set them up very nicely for that win. So the cars on the in-lap, making their way up now through the chicane, then to the pit road. And Max Weering's second victory of the season. And tomorrow he will start that car, so the work is going to be done by him. But that also with Kimi Gilardoni and Leonardo Pulcini taking fourth spot, sets us up nicely for the championship with 3 races still to go. Misano, the final stop. So number 90, Holger Harmsen, I don't think ever served the drive-through penalty, so he's just been given a 30-second penalty. There's a 15-second penalty to go to Mattia Michelotto. There are tenths of second penalties to go to others for pit stop infringement. So the result, after a bit of unravelling, at least there's nothing to affect the top 3, that's for sure. As Max Weering then brings the car into the pit lane, Loris Spinelli is there to say well done. And a good result, certainly for Max Weering, within the championship there. Out he clambers. All the cables unplugged, and Max Weering out of the car. Loris Spinelli drafted in to help, and he has done exactly the right thing. Good job done there. So the winning team, Johan Kran's squad, very happy indeed. Another win, and the Weering family pretty chuffed as well. Other drivers vanquished, a little frustrated, but a good effort by Raoul Gutzman trying to bring down that gap for second place after the efforts in the first stint of Glenn van Berlo, and Maxime Oostin and Milan Tikens taking third outright and third in pro. So the podium awaits for the winning drivers. And let's have a chance to hear from our race winners, because Max Weering and Loris Spinelli are with Gemma Scott.
Loris, Max, congratulations, a fantastic drive. Loris, you commanded that from the start.
Yeah, what I can say, thank you to the team, because we did the pole position, first lap of the race, and podium, so just thanks to the team for the hard work, to Max to bring home the podium, and really happy now, focused and looking forward for Red Shield. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a great drive from both of you. Max, bringing it home is exactly what you said you needed to do.
Yeah, and that's true. He did a really great job. I had a big gap with the people behind me. There was, after 10 minutes, there was a lot of traffic, so without any damage, I had to bring the car home. And luckily, that's true. So I'm really happy with it.
Congratulations.
Thank
well
you.
done, both of you.
Thank you.
Just had one car that's arrived rather smokily into the pit lane and is being attended to with fire extinguishers. But further up the pit lane, there are happy teams and relieved engineers that don't have to do much work overnight. But a race win for Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli at the end of the first of the 2 races here this weekend. So Loris Spinelli, Max Wearing the winners from Raul Gutzman and Glenn Van Berlo, Milan Tikens and Maxime Oostin taking 3rd ahead of Kevin Gilardoni and Leonardo Pulcini, Dan Pell and Danny Cruz 5th, and then with the penalty for being a bit under on the pit stop, Sebastian Balthazar and Seb Morris taking 6th. Andrea Cola and Dimitri Gavatseva 7th ahead of Kevin Rossell, with Eduardo Liberati and Andre Lewandowski 9th. The top 10 rounded out by Bronek Formanek and Josef Zaruba. Massimo Siglia and Guillaume Puyoy taking the 11th spot. The one that never started, sadly, the AM Championship leader, Claude-Yves Gosselin. So big dramas for him. And after a delayed start, 5 laps down, Pierre Feligioni and Daniel Bashinsky rounding out the order down in 29th position. Milos Pavlovic hauled Petar Matic's car up to 16th with a penalty. Fidel Live and Yuri Wagner were 17th. And after that late race spin, the Privitellios fell to 26th. Let's look back at the highlights of that race. It all began with Loris Spinelli taking centre stage because he stormed away from pole position, and there was no stopping him in that first stint as he set the fastest lap of the race and just built that race lead. It was all happening behind him though as they dropped down towards turn 1. Field turning their way through, but dramas for this car. Pierre Feligioni had tried to start from the pit lane, then the problems persisted. The car had to be taken back as Leonardo Pulcini dive-bombed Danny Cruz, but ran out wide and got mugged by Seb Morris. And also getting mugged was Oscar Lee, Fidel Live, his attacker. Leonardo Pulcini finally made his move stick on Danny Cruz, went through on the inside at turn 1 and then set off in pursuit of Seb Morris. Was down at the bottom of the hill. Another battle raged on as Eduardo Liberati moved his way up on the inside of Massimo Siglia, gaining ground there. Drama between number 8 of the Privitellios and number 19, Holger Harmsen. Harmsen was turned around and the penalised Privitellios carried on their way. Seb Morris lost out to Leonardo Pulcini. That gave him work to do as the field battled on. And back through on the inside of Morris came Danny Cruz, his trademark move as the pit stops cycle through. Morris one of the first to come in. Out of the race lead, Spinelli gave way to Max Wearing, and an inspired Eduardo Liberati was on a mission, muscling his way through any gap he could find, and that forced Francesco Guerra out wide as it was game on for 3rd place late race. Maxime Oostin under pressure from Kevin Gilardoni, but try as he might, Gilardoni couldn't find a way by. Josef Zaruba made a move against Mattia Michelotto, who tried to get the undercut and only succeeded in putting himself in stride. It was up to the checkered flag, and on 2nd win of the year came Max Wearing, helped this time by Loris Spinelli. They came through victorious in race 1 of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe. So now the drivers make their way to the podium. This is how we look for the championship, with Leonardo Pulcini now with Kevin Gilardoni only 11 points up on Max Wearing, with Sebastian Balthazar ahead of Glenn Van Berlo and Raul Gutzman in the standings. Noah Watt absent is ahead of Milan Tikens and Maxime Oostin. From Kevin Rossell, the absent Jonathan Chicotto. Dan Pell comes next. So they're the drivers making their way out onto the podium. Get called out, you collect your trophy, you go to your step. So we have for 3rd place Maxime Oostin and Milan Tikens, for 2nd Raul Gutzman and Glenn Van Berlo, and then now for the top step of the podium, out come Loris Spinelli and Max Weering, race winners here at the Nuerburgring. Top three teams then from the Pro Cup here at the Nuerburgring. Race winners, Max Weering and Loris Spinelli. Everybody huddles together now on the top step of the podium, but for Max Weering, the season started with that Monza win, and maybe, just maybe now, as the season comes towards its close, things are on the up once more and bringing him back into the mix as far as the championship is concerned. So drivers then make their way off the podium from the Pro contest. Next to step forward at the end of this ninth round of the championship will be those from Pro-Am, where it should be for third place Josef Zaruba and Bronek Fomanek. So the Lamborghini Squadron Corsa officials making sure they've got the right people. And yes, we have. So out come Bronek Fomanek and Josef Zaruba for third place. They've had a class win already this season. Josef Zaruba collects his trophy, steps forward onto the podium. For second place, Andrei Lewandowski, this time with Eduardo Liberati, doing a very good job for his AM co-driver who wants to win another championship. Lewandowski's got a lot of previous winning Lamborghini titles, whether it's in the championship or the World Final. And then for the top step, out come from the victorious squad of Target Racing, Andrea Kola and Dmitry Gavatseva. So the winning Pro-Ams on the podium, Andrea Kola, Dmitry Gavatseva, winners of Pro-Am here at the Nuerburgring. Again, everyone gets together for the championship photographs, and then they will make their way off the podium. We're about to discover as well with the AMs whether it was a two or a one driver effort for the win, because Miguel Ramos should be on the podium in a few moments' time. But a very happy trio from Pro-Am make their way off the podium now. Dmitry Gavatseva and Andrea Kola very, very happy indeed with a class win. So next to the AMs, where for third place it should be Gregor Mochulski and Rafał Mikrut. For second place we will have the Brussigignon driver, Han Hui-Lin, the Chinese driver, with no racing in Asia at present. He's come across to Europe to race, which is great to see. And then the race winner will be Miguel Ramos. So hopefully we're good to go. There, Gregor Mochulski and Rafał Mikrut, out they come. So that's your third place combination of drivers. Hats, sunnies, masks, trophies, everything you could wish for. Onto the podium, Rafał Mikrut and Gregor Mochulski. For second place, Han Hui-Lin. And he will make his way out onto the podium now. And for a class win, is it one or is it two? Miguel Ramos seemed to drive all the way through. And as we get set for race 2 tomorrow and say farewell from the Nürburgring, out comes Miguel Ramos and Adrian Amstutz. So it was a two-driver effort after all, and that confirms exactly who did what in Am. Lively racing, and we'll see you for more tomorrow from the Nürburgring. For now, it's goodbye.